Hello and welcome to Thursday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where on screen we have another puzzle by Phistomefel. Now we only did a puzzle by Phistomefel a couple of days ago. It was a monstrously difficult puzzle, it took me over an hour to solve it. And normally we wouldn't have the same constructor so quickly, but I have had a lot of emails requesting that we solve this puzzle. It appeared on Logic Masters Germany just a couple of days ago, and it's obviously caught your attention and imagination. And I have to say, I just want to solve it as well. It combines a pencil puzzle type with Sudoku in what looks like the most extraordinarily elegant way. So yeah, we've got to try it. We've got to try it. Now, a couple of things I want to mention before we do try it. I got a letter this morning, and I will show you, from YouTube. So you can see they sent a nice letter and a plaque. And this is it. This is a plaque that we received for getting 100,000 subscribers on the channel. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And I've been working since I was 22 years old, and that is by far the proudest moment of my professional career. So huge thank you to all you guys. You know, it is, yeah, it's beyond belief. What else do I want to mention? I want to mention that on Patreon at the moment, but free, not behind the paywall, we have this incredible Sudoku combining 14 different variants by Prasanna Seshadri, the brilliant constructor from India. Do have a go at that puzzle. We are going to solve it on the channel soon, once I've got my head around all the rules. But I think because it's going to be, we're limited for space in terms of how many rules we can put on the video at any one time, it would definitely be a good idea to have a look at that puzzle before you watch the video, whenever that video appears. So do check that out. Now, I mentioned earlier, I'm really excited about this puzzle because I've noticed that Phistomefel seems to be expanding his repertoire in the direction of pencil puzzles. And I tell you what, this could turn the puzzle world on its head if this is the direction he starts to take things, because I think there is so much potential. We even saw a puzzle just on the channel the other day, which was marked it. It was a star battle Sudoku. And I watched that video and I thought to myself, look, this puzzle reminds me of sandwich Sudoku in the sense that it has a sequence of steps that you have to go through to solve it. You firstly got to do the star battle logic, and then that gives you a bit of traction with the Sudoku. And I quite want to do another of those puzzles on the channel for that reason. And Osh did send us 2 Star Battle Sudokus, one of which was he described as very hard. So if you would like to see us do the very hard one, well, if you want to see me do it, because I want to do it, then do let us know in the comments, because I'd be quite keen, I think, to keep going with that variation. Yeah, and Phistomefel, I saw a Slither link he'd done on Logic Masters Germany recently, and now this, which is Spiral Galaxies being combined with Killer Sudoku. I mean, it's just mind-bending. Let me read you the rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply. The dots given in the grid are the centres of pointsymmetric galaxies, which function as cages for the Killer Sudoku. The number above a dot indicates the sum of the digits in such a cage. The digits in a cage may not repeat, and contrary to a classical galaxy puzzle, not every cell in the grid has to be part of a galaxy. So, wow. Let's, if you're not familiar with what galaxies are, let me just explain those to you. Look, we can use this 30 cage. You can see that the circle means that these 2 cells have definitely got to be part of the 30 cage. And we've got to make sure it stays rotationally symmetric, which means that if, for example, let's colour this in, if we decided this cell was part of the 30, part of this dot's shape, and we coloured it in, we must also take that shape, or that cell, because we need to keep the shape symmetric. If we took that one, we'd also have to take this one. And if for some reason we then concluded that we had to take this one as well, we've broken the puzzle. Because now, the rotational, if we rotate this dot around this point, we get this cell here, and this cell cannot be part of this shape because it's part of the 20 dot. So that would not be allowed. We couldn't maintain our rotational symmetry. So we're going to build up these shapes in the grid and then have to solve a killer Sudoku that results from them. It's just, I mean, it is just a brilliant idea. I'm very much looking forward to trying this, as you've probably gathered. Do have a go yourselves. Click on the link under the video. And with that, let's get cracking. And I'm going to start there. Look, we've got two cells joined by this dot. We know a 4 cage, or a cell that contains, that we have to make add up to 4, cannot contain more than 2 digits. So in fact, we can immediately get off and running. This is the end of this shape. If we try and extend it further, we'll have too many cells to make the total 4, given that the digits have to be different. Where now? So we've got a 20 cage here. That must be more than 2 cells. So we'll shade these two in. And look, this cell can't be part of the 20 cage, because if it is, the rotational equivalent is this cell, but this cell is definitely not part of the 20 cage because it's part of a 23 shape. So this, right, yeah, so this 20 cage either comes this way and this way like that, or this way and this way. We don't know which, but we know it doesn't take all of those cells, because 6 cells can't make 20 without repeating a digit. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 adds up to 21. So that is about all we know about this one. We know the the 23 is sort of caught in a vice, look, because it can't take either of the cells above it or below it. So how does it move? It must come in that direction, and therefore we have to keep it symmetrical. And then it could stop, because it could just be 6, 8, 9. Do we know? No, I mean, we know it doesn't come to this square, but it could come like that, or it could come like that. So we don't know yet how the 23 moves. The 18 takes those 2 squares. Let's make that green. And we know it must take more. It must have more cells, because we can't make 2 cells add up to 18. And again, I don't think we know how that... Oh, we do know how it develops because of the 10. Wow. So the 10, look, obviously this can't be a single cell shape because 9 is less than 10. Now, can this square be part of the 10? No, because the rotational equivalent of this cell would be off the grid. So this 10 has to come horizontally. And it can't be more than 3 cells large, because if we make it 5 cells, obviously 5 cells, the minimum we can make those add up to is 15. So that, look, removes the possibility of this cell being part of this 18 cage. So the 18 cage now has to take those 2 cells and to retain its symmetry. And that's the only option it has. It now can't go any further, or its rotation is off the grid. So we fixed the 18. We might have fixed the 23. We've definitely fixed the 10. 45, that's going to have to use 9 cells somehow, because obviously all of the numbers from 1 to 9, if you add them up, that's what you get. And as we can't repeat a digit, this therefore is a 9 cell region. Got no idea how that's going to look. 30 has got to be at least a 4 cell region. So it's going to take these 2 cells and then some more. Now let's make those... I can make those purple, look, because I can't... Actually, I could get there. Let me... what colour? Grey. Let's make that grey. But I don't know how that moves. 45 again here. 45 can't come downwards. So this cell is not part of the 45. Ah, yeah, okay, so the 45 is a bit caught in a vice by the 25. Look, let's shade that in and think about this. So as this cell can't be part of the 45, the only way the 45 can develop is if it takes those 2 cells horizontally. So it needs to do that. But now it could bend, could do anything. No, perhaps I'm wrong about that. Look. Yeah, this 7. Yes, so the 25, look, is now bounded on its vertical, at its vertical side. So neither of these squares can be part of the 25. 25 in 2 cells is not enough. So this is going to have to keep going horizontally. And that means the 45 in turn is bounded on its lower side, which means none of those 3 squares can be part of the 45. So the 45 has to keep going. And now it can't keep going to this square because that square is not part of the 45. So now it must turn. It's got to be 9 cells, so it's got to carry on going. We know none of these squares is in. This square is the equivalent of that square. That's not possible, so it's then got to go one further. It's got to do that. And that completes the 45 shape. And it bounds the 30 cage. Look, the 30 cage can't come here now. So the 30 cage is going to take 1 or 2 of those and 1 or 2 of those. But it can't. The 30 cage now can't reach these 2 squares. This is brilliant. This is just brilliant. This idea is so... It's so coherent to combine these 2 puzzles. The tricky thing is you've got to be a constructor of just genius to do it properly. To create a killer Sudoku out of a spiral galaxy is not something I would relish doing, I have to say. 17 here. Oh yeah, this is good, because look, this 17, I can make that red safely, I think. How does this develop? Well, it can't come this way because the rotation takes it off the grid. It's in a vice there, so it can't rotate. It cannot rotate, so this is the limit of the 17 shape. 17 in 2 cells must be 8, 9. And we need to make... now this 14 now can't be a 2-digit shape. Because if it is... it can't be 6, 8 and it can't be 5, 9. So this needs to be more than just 2 cells. I'm not sure how to tell whether it goes that way or that way, but it does one of those 2 things. The 10 shape, let's make that grey, shall we? Now this is bound on its top side, so that can't be in. We know it must therefore go horizontally, and it's 3 cells. So now we've got a 25 here and a 10. So that's 35. We know that the whole of the row will add to 45 because that's what we get when we add the numbers from 1 to 9. So that square, well, these 2 squares together have to add up to 10. So that square has to be a 7 or a 9. And now there we go. There's a trick. Is that possible? Is that possible? Have a look at the grid. If you can't see it, pause the video. It's really... It's lovely. I think because I did the chaos construction, I'm used to these sort of constraints. But the reason is, no, it definitely can't be a 9, because now I can't put a 9 anywhere in row 6. Because, of course, this shape is all one shape. So we can't repeat a digit in it. So if I make that 9, none of those 5 squares can be 9, which shifts the 9 into one of those 3 positions. But there's an 8, 9 pair there, so they can't have a 9 there. This cannot be a 9. This has to be a 7. That's a 3, and that's a 1. Now, does that tell us anything useful? The 10 cage now, that needs a 1 in it because it can't be 2, 3, 5 anymore with the 3 here. So this is 1 and 2 more squares that have to add up to 9 without using 1, 8. Oh, yeah, without using 1, 8, 2, 7 or 3, 6, that has to be 1, 4, 5, surprisingly. Okay, so $18, look, this 18 is bounded at the top, so it's got to come at least like this. Let's make that blue. It could come further because you could make 5 cells add to 18 quite easily. I mean, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 is 15. So, and we've got 2 7s, both. So these 7s are in a line because neither of them can move upwards at all. Therefore, the only centre of reflection that's going to be permissible is if they're either like this, or this one could be like this. So one of these is a single 7, and the other is 1, 2, and 4. Can we... So if this was like this, I'm just wondering, because we... No, that's impossible. This one now, look, can't be... let's use orange. Can't be like that, because if it is a 3-cell sum, I've got to put the numbers 1, 2, and 4 into those 2 positions. Now, I've now got 5 cells here that need to be filled with the numbers 1, 2, 4, and 5. That's only 4 different numbers. That's not possible. So this arrangement now is broken. Let me just do one more. So this can't be 1, 2. So this has to be 7, I think. And this one now can't be a lone 7. So this must be a 1, 2, 4 triple. And that must be a different colour. We'll make that one purple. 1, 4 here, 1, 4 here. So there's a 1, 4, 1, 4 at the bottom of, well, this box. That one can't be a 1. 2, look, must be in one of those 3 squares because it's not up here. So now that square's a 2 by Sudoku. These squares now add up to 23 in 3 cells. That's 6, 8, 9. These cells must be 3, 5, 7. 2, 4. The 18 can't be 5 cells now, because if this 18 does go one more in both directions, it can't take a 1, because there's 1s in those 3 and 1s in those 3, and 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 adds to 20, which is more than 18. So this 18 is just 3 cells. And if this is a 3, that would make this have to add to 15 without using 7, so that would be 6 and 9. If this is 5, this would have to add to 13 without using 5, 8, 6, 7, or 4, 9. So 5 is just ruled out. 5 is ruled out of there. If this is 7, these have to add to 11 without using 3, 8, 5, 6, or 4, 7. So that would have to be 2, 9. So there's always a 9. There's always a 9. It's either 6 and 9 or 2 and 9 into those squares. So we definitely want to notate that. There's always a 9, but there's never an 8. So the 8 gets locked into one of those 3 squares. Now look at this. We've got 8s in the same columns of the grid. So columns 8 and 9. In this box, we know that's where the 8's locked. In this box, the 8's locked again. So in these squares, we need to put, there's only going to be room for an 8 in one of those 3 squares, which of course is absolutely useless. Wow. Okay, so we're going to have to look somewhere else. Where do we need to look now? We've done this 45. We've done the 20. Well, we've not done the 20, but we've looked at the 20. I've not looked at the 36. I've not looked at the 45. The 36 is bounded on its bottom side by this square. So that square... Right, so this square can't be in the 36 shape. So the 36 shape must begin its journey like that and then end. So let's pick... what colour is going to not clash here? I know you guys all say that I should use the 4-colour theorem all the time, but the problem is I don't know what the shapes are going to look like, so I can't efficiently colour using the 4-colour theorem. Grey. I think grey is the safest, assuming this 36 can't get... No, it can't get all the way down there because I know the 14 is going to cut it off. So grey looks safe given that this square can't be grey. Right, so this does this. It's not here. It can't go here because that would reflect onto that square, so it must turn like that. Now it's size 5, but that's not enough. That's not enough because 5 cells, even if we make them 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, that adds to 35. This has to go again. And it can only go here and here. So the 36, and it can't go any further or it would be a size 9. There's no cell it can take anyway. The 14 now gets fixed though. This square not being in means that square's not in. These two are the only ways that the 14 can be made. One here. I don't see how to quite use that, to be honest. So, now look, this 45 has got caged in. It's got... Oh, this is so clever. Look at this. Look at this. The 30 cage has to take some cells from up here. What happens if it takes 2 cells? Let's say it took those 2 cells. Those 2 turn grey. Now, this means this 45 cage now, it needs 9 cells. It can take those squares quite comfortably, but these 2 squares it can't take because it can't reflect. It would reflect onto the 30 cage. So the 45 is now bounded at size 7. So it's not possible this 30 cage takes both of these. It can take exactly one of these 2 cells. Now, if it takes exactly one of these 2 cells, exactly one of these 2 cells is not in the 45 cage. So the 45 cage must take these cells. I can make them blue. It must take one of these 2 and one of these 2. And the other of these 2 is grey. And that... Oh, this is... Yes. Now the 30 cage, because it can't come this way, it can never take this cell because the rotation takes it onto the 45 cage now. This can only be of size 4, which means it is the numbers 6, 7, 8 and 9. There's an 8, 9 there. That is a 6, 7 pair. Oh, this is... it's sublime what he's doing here. It's sublime. Look, because now we know that this needs an 8 and a 9 to complete the shape. And we know that there's an 8 or a 9 in one of these 2 squares. So can this 23 cage be 6, 8 and 9 now? No, because if it is, I can't put an 8 or a 9 in either of those 2 squares, and that breaks the 30 shape. So this has to move. It has, and it can't come here because of the 18 cage. It must come like that. Goodness me. So that does define the 23 cage now. The 23 cage is fixed. One of these two cells is part of the 30 cage. One of these two cells is part of the 30 cage. The 20 cage is now fixed because this cell can't take it because that reflects onto that. So there's one of these two is in the 45, but the other is not. One of these two is in the 45, the other is not. So this is sort of a grey-blue blend that I don't have a way of notating. So now I think we've done most of the shapes now. Let me just double check that. Is there anything else we can... Well, there's the decision to be made about how the 45 develops, and the decision to be made about how the 30 develops, but everything else is fixed. And we're going to have to think harder now about what to do. So we've got... what can we do now? So we've got 6, 7 here. So on this 45, I need to put a 6. It's not going to go in those squares. The 6 must be in one of those 3 positions, which is possible. Yeah, sorry about this. This is always the point with a Phistomefel puzzle, where you feel you're in the presence of a teacher who's much cleverer than you are, and you're not quite grasping what he's patiently explaining to you. I don't think any other compiler makes me feel as dim as Phistomefel. 31 here, that's 14. 31, 7. 7 on the 14 cage would be 1, 2, 4. That's okay. 30, 10. What am I meant to see here? I looked at this, didn't I? 9. 2, 3. Okay, well there's a relationship between this square and this square coming out of box 1, look. We know the box adds to 45, so if we put a 5 in this square, that would make those 4 squares add up to 18. That would get another 18 from there. That's 36. So this, right, this square would have to be a 9. So if this is a 5, this is a 9. That's not possible, obviously, because a 9 would break the 10 cage. So we can't put a big digit in here. But, yes, we can't put a big digit in here, but this square is always 4 greater than this square because of the arithmetic in this box. So actually this square can't be a 1 or a 2. Well, yeah, okay, that's it, isn't it? This can't be 4. If this is 4, we know this has to be 4 greater. That would have to be 8. That breaks the 10 cage. So the only possibility is that this is 3. This is 7. That does work. So 20 plus 18 is 38, plus 7 is 45. That forces this to be, well, it does a lot. It forces that to be a 1-2 pair. It forces a 7 into one of those 2 squares. Two pair. Now, right. What do we do with this 1-2 pair? What do we do with that 1-2 pair? That is just gorgeous. So the trick is to notice the 45 shape. And where do we put? We know there's a 1 and a 2 in the 45 shape, but where on earth can we put the 1 and the 2? There's going to be another cell in the 45 down here, but it obviously can't be a 1 or a 2. There's going to be another cell in the 45 up here. Can't be a 1 or a 2. None of those can be 1s and 2s because they're ruled out by these two. Only those two can be 1s and 2s. How clever is that? So now there's a 1 and a 2 in the 23 shape. Combines with a 3. So this has got very restricted now. There's got to be a 1 and a 2 in those 3 positions because of the 1-2's dominoes in those 2 squares. So now we've got 3 of the 5 cells in the 23 cage summing up to 6. So the other 2 have to sum up to 17. So they've got to be 8 and 9. So that square has to be an 8 or a 9. These squares have got to be 1, 2, 8 and 9 in some order. That can't be 1, that can't be 2. 2, 8, 9. 2, 8, 9. And so 3 gets shuffled up into the corner there by this 3. And that 3 rules out that one. Didn't see that. 2, 1, 2. Now hang on a minute. The 36. The 36 shape here is 7 cells large, so it's missing two cells or 2 digits that sum to 9, so it must contain a 9. Now that 9, I think that 9 can go in any of those cells actually. No, look, well that's true, but look, this cell is incredibly powerful as regards this 36 shape because it sees the whole shape. Oh, this is just, the geometry here is just stunning because if this, whatever I put into this square, 1 or 2, as it removes itself from the entire 36 shape, its counterpart is also not in the 36 shape. So if we have a 1 in here, there can't be an 8 in this shape because there can't be a 1 in the shape. And we know that the 2 digits that are missing from the 36 have to add up to 9. So once there's no 1, there can be no 8. If this is a 2, there can be no 7. And if there's no 7, this box is broken because there's no 7 in it. Look, there's a 7 there. So those 2 can't be 7. If this is a 2, we know there's no 7 in the grey area because you can't put a 2 in the grey area. That is stunning. Look, this 7 rules everything out. This cannot be a 2. That has to be a 1. This has to be a 2. There is no 8. There is no 8 in the grey shape now. So this, I can't see what I've pencil marked here, but the 8s, yes, the 8s were, we locked into the left-hand side, didn't we, of this box by these 8s. So one of these 2 has to be an 8. It can't be in the grey shape. Wow, this is an 8. Now, So now there is a 1 in the 14 shape from these two 1s interacting. There's no 2 down there. That, I think that can be a 2, though. I can just about see it. No. Look. There's no 1 and 8 in the grey shape, but there needs to be a 2 in it. Look, where does the 2 go? It's got to go in one of those two squares. So this is not a 2. And that means that's got to be a 2. That shifts an 8 down over there, which means these 3 squares are now fixed, I think. That's got to be 5, 6 and 9. So these squares here have got to be 3 and 8. And I don't yet know the order. But as... hang on a minute, let me just think about this, sorry. So now this can't be 2, so this can't be 7, 9, 2. This has to be 3 in this square. This has to be a 6, 9 pair. What a puzzle. What a puzzle this is. I'm now starting to understand why so many of you requested this. Now, this 7 all of a sudden has become powerful as well. Because I can't put a 7 in the 14 here. Because if there's a 7 in it, the other 3 squares would have to be 1, 2 and 4. And they can't be because the 2 is there. So I think the 7 has to be there. That's the only place it can go. And then we can just do Sudoku on this box. Where does the 7 go? It's got to go here. That's the only square that's available. So now there's a 7 in one of those 3 positions. Now we can do arithmetic on this box, look, because we've got a 14 cage plus a 17 cage, that's 31, plus 7, that's 38. Those 2 squares have got to sum up to 7, and they've already got a 2 in them. So this is a 2, 5 pair. So this square's got to be a 4, because it can't be a 1 or a 5 now. And what next? I'm not sure. 6, 9, 3, 8. Where does the 5 go now in this shape? Well, this 5 rules 5 out from those squares. 5 can only go in that position in the box. 5 must be over here now. So 5's in one of those 3 positions. Actually, look, we can rule a 3 out from there. That is important. Look, we've now got 7s locked into this sort of X-wing arrangement in column 4 and column 5. So where does the 7 go in this column? It can't go in those 3, it can't go in those 3, so it must be in one of those 3 squares. It therefore can't be in these 2 squares. So that square is a 7. Come on, let's keep this going now. Don't fall apart. 6, 9. No, I'm not seeing anything good now. Obviously, I've still got this decision to be made about how the 45 finishes. I mustn't forget that. So 8, 9 here, 5, 6, 9 there. Another of these moments during a Phistomefel puzzle where I am nonplussed. 4, look, that shifts that over into those squares. That means there's a 4 in the 14 cage in one of those two cells. It's not greatly helpful. There's also got to be, what's it, a 3 and a 6. So that square can only be a 3 or a 6. So I need to try and do something to... Oh, look at this. Yes, 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 yes. Where does the 3 go on the 45 shape? This 3 rules out those two. This 3 rules out those two. This 3 rules out all of those. So it must be in one of those two positions, which see that cell there. That's a 6. That fixes the 6 and the 9. That means that's not a 9. In fact, we should be able to write that cell in now. Look, that's got to be a 3, I think, to complete the column. 6. There's a 6 over on this side of the grid. The 9 being shifted onto this side of the grid fixes the 9-8 pair in this box. That fixes the 8-3 below it. The 5 fixes the 5-1. That's been there for a while, probably. These two squares have got to be 3 and 4. The 3 shifts into that one. That's a 4. That looks okay. Wow. Now, can we get any more traction from this in terms of 6, 4, 7 here? Of course, look, we've got a 6-7 pair there. No doubt you'll all be cross with me for not placing that more quickly. It's not because I don't want to, it's because I'm looking at other things. It's very hard with live solves not to miss things. It really is incredibly difficult. Now, this box now, look, we've got 20 plus 10 plus 1, so that's 31. These two squares have got to add up to 14 without using a 6, so this is a 5-9 pair. Now that square is in the same shape, so that's got to be a 6 now, can't be a 5 or a 9. The 5-9 pair in column 3, that's not 9 anymore. These 3 squares are now fixed, aren't they? They've got to be 2, 3 and 8. So I'm going to pencil mark those in. That one can't be 3. So this shape now still needs a 1 and a 4, which we can now place. 1 and 4 must look like that. There must be a 4 in one of those two squares. The other two being a 2 and a 5. So 2, 4, 5 into those positions. 2, 3, 8 here. There's a 9 and a 5 in those positions. Now, aha. Now that means one of these two positions has got to be an 8, because the 30 needs a 9. It can get a 9 from down there. It needs an 8, so that one of those two is an 8. Now hang on, there's other stuff going on here now. Oh, I've got it, look, 5s. 5s here and here, in these two columns. Where does the 5 go in column 6 of the grid? Well, we know it can't go in those or those, it must go here. Now once it goes here, this cell can't now be part of the 45, because if it is, it repeats the 5 in the shape. So it must take that one. Now once it takes that one, its rotational property is that one. That must also be blue and can't be 8 now because it would repeat the 8. That makes that one the 8, which makes this one the 9 because we get the rotational symmetry of the grey shape. That one's a 5. Have you ever seen anything more beautiful than this? This is just amazing. Now, 1, 4 there, so that's a 2. That can't be a 2 or a 3, so that's an 8. Those two are a 2, 3 pair. That one can't be an 8. So this has to be a 6 or a 9 at the top. This 8 fixes the 8 over that side of the grid. That fixes a 1 here, look. Let me try and sort that out efficiently. So we get a 2, 9 pair there. This can't be 5 anymore, we know that. That can't be 9 anymore, we know that. So this is now a 4, 6 pair, is it? I think so. I feel like that must be resolvable. Very heavily pencil marked grid. Again, I make no excuses for it. It's not easy to solve this puzzle. The 7, that's going to be nice, isn't it? That gives me the 7 and the 6 into those two squares. This can't be 9. 6, 8, 8, 9. That can't be that's good because that's going to fix everything. That 6 gives me the 9 at the top. That's going to place a 9 on that side of the grid. Still got this 1, 2 pair to resolve. Again, I still can't see how to finish this efficiently. This 5 is going to be a 5. That's going to be a 2. So that helps over there by fixing those two to be a 2, 4 pair. So these two have to add up to 14. They've got to be 6 and 8. The 6 down here is helpful. 6, 8. That fixes an 8 there. That 4 and that 1 must go this way round, therefore. That fixes the 4 and the 2. The 5, 9 pair here means that square I think has got to be a 4. And you can see how powerful that is. That unwinds all of those squares. It gives us, what does that give us? 12, so that's got to be 6. I thought I made a mistake for a horrible moment there. That's a 6, that's a 4. That fixes the 4 here, that fixes the 4 and the 1. That 1 fixes the 1 and the 2 and the 3 and the 6. And this watch is fixing the 5s and the 9s. Or the 2, yeah, the 2 is fixing it. That's a 2, that's a 9, that's a 9, that's a 5, that's a 9, that's a 5. And that is how to solve that absolutely exquisite gem from Phistomefel. Perhaps not the smoothest solve you've ever seen, but certainly, for me, one of the most enjoyable. I hope you enjoyed watching me try to solve it, and we'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.